an old joke when a person is asked if they have awareness, and they respond by saying, "Awareness? What's that?" Although it's still humorous, it's also a serious situation that is the condition of probably 99.999% of the world's population. They're walking around in a dreamlike state, just enough to get by during their lives, but not enough to be aware that they are truly existing in an illusion, and certainly not enough to know that there is more to a conscious existence than food, shelter, reproduction, and power over others. The other trick phenomenon is if you see someone who is ensconced in the illusion and ask, "Are you awake and aware right now?" In that brief moment, they will be more awake and say yes, but then go back to their dream state. So why is it that some people manage to figure out that there is more to life and have awareness of their condition, that they lift their heads up above the maddening crowd and taste the different higher reality? To me, if there was any kind of compelling argument for us being the product of many lives, or if there was some outside help or consciousness as being a gift, that would be it. But even with that, it is the only gift, and the rest is completely up to the individual to take the clue of awakening and run with it. There are two basic categories of people, a sort of line that can be separating people into two basic categories. One, people who want to seek the truth as their primary focus in life. Two, people who want to seek comfort as their primary focus in life. Now, even people that want to seek truth also want to have comfort, but it is constantly interrupted by the need to know and evolve. Eventually, if the desire is strong enough, the need for self-realization will become so dominating that a person will intentionally give up their comfort to find their higher self. There's another thing that people are born into the world with, and it's called a magnetic center. It is something in us that draws us to certain things. Now, there are different kinds of magnetic centers for different things, but one or another is a predominant one. So, for example, someone is drawn to sports, music, business, etc. But some are drawn towards self-realization. Even with that, there are all different ways to accomplish such, and therefore we argue. Most of the time because we have a conflict of the definition of terms based on not really having someone of experience to explain them to us, and an arrogance of some to make up their own definitions and not willing to learn from those that have gone before and define these things. But if you want to truly communicate with others and make some real progress, there needs to be a common language. So let me attempt to define some things from what I've learned from my mentors. So what is self-realization? There's so many terms that are bandied about: self-realization, consciousness, enlightenment, spiritual, mystical, etc. I hope to try and define some of these terms and to put them into some kind of order. Not a hard rule as such, but some kind of a beginning, a ledge to start with. So let's start with consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness is the ability to be aware of both your own self-knowledge and the cosmos around you. It is a continuous process, and there is no final destination, contrary to popular belief, at least for us mortals to be able to see. How does that differ from enlightenment? Well, enlightenment is the state of being created as the result of prolonged and realized consciousness, coupled with conscience and the accepting of facing the unknown, brave or not, and your own destiny, identifying yourself to be separate from your body, a spiritual being. So what is a spiritual being? To be in touch with your higher self, to identify yourself as a transcendental being that just happens to be riding in this body at this particular time. Something that can be in touch with the hearts and souls of others and wants to keep them on a straight path. Mystical. If I had a cell phone with an internet connection, as the internet is today, 100 years ago or before, it would be the most amazing mystical device known to humankind. There might even be whole religions built up and around either the phone or me. It would be a completely mystical device. But today, it is not mystical because, for the most part, we understand what a computer or a cell phone is, and we know what the internet is. So what is mystical? The mystical is a placeholder for the unknown. It is like the number 0 that holds the space for a higher order of numerical value in the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, etc. It is eventually placed with a numerical value from 1 to 9. So once you discover and learn what a computer is, the mystical part is no longer there, unless you are a promoter of a particular belief that needs to keep your followers and intrigued to keep your power over them. Then the leaders will either keep you in the dark about what a cell phone is, or continue to make up more mystical illusions as to what it is, and you never really understand what's actually going on the cell phone. Does this mean that there is no more mystical? No. Because there's plenty of unknown things that will come around that we still don't understand. But once you understand them, for your own damn sake, give up the mystical part and move on. But you see, the problem is, most people don't want to give up the mystical. Why? Because it feels so damn good. It introduces endorphins like going on an adventure. It gives us comfort, like the kind of comfort we get from watching and immersing ourselves in mythological worlds, like we are experiencing the movies and what books give us. It is another sweet treat from the many illusions of Maya. It is a drug, maybe even more potent than heroin. It is what religions are built on. Enlightenment involves clarity of being, not pleasurable, not painful. It just is and observes these things. It can observe ourselves thinking, feeling, reacting, and yet it's still separate and observes. But most people would rather indulge themselves in the pleasures and pains of the flesh, as well as the intrigue of false mystical illusions. What is self-realization? The experiencing of a higher self, the knowing difference between that higher self and the body we presently reside in. There is a point that one can cross over where the recognition of the higher self is more predominant than that of the body. Then a person has crossed over the line from just self-realization to enlightenment. Why? Because the word light is in the word enlightenment. You're giving off your own light. So now that we've established those definitions for a moment, let's look at what we need to do to become self-realized. In order to become self-realized and enlightened, you cannot get there through writing and scriptures. It is like looking for your keys for your car under a well-lit lamppost because the lighting is much better, even though you lost your keys down the block where it was dark. You must learn to create your own light. Go back down the street where it is dark to find your keys, no matter how scary it is. Established religions by their established nature have become relics of the truth and not the truth of the moment. They have some guidelines that are a beginning, but they are only a first step. Religions have become the teachers of the first step, but instead of showing you how to walk, they just teach you how to be a fancy first step taker. In fact, if somebody actually does start walking, they get excommunicated before they can take another step. Why? Because everyone else will see how they can walk and run freely from their words and rituals. Then pretty soon the religions would have no more followers, just self-leaders. No more money for the religion, no more power for the religion, no more religion. So having people become self-realized is a conflict of interest for religion. Think about it. The path to enlightenment is to learn how to face the unknown. Not to believe anything, verify everything. And not just once, but over and over. And even if you believe in God, and I am agnostic on this subject, then if that were the case, then by any definition, in any writing or practices of the one omnipotent God, they are described as all and everything. And if that's true, then God would be infinite. And if God is infinite, then God is indefinable and the unknown. So really, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, you still have to face the unknown. And the moment you try to define God, you limit what God is. So enlightenment is about creating a sense of self that can transcend through the death of the body and still maintain a sense of identity and face whatever comes next without fear. If this is not the case, and whatever we do doesn't matter, then I might as well follow the path towards enlightenment anyway. That way, at least I'll have all my bases covered.